So, in your observation, how has the expansion of the invited World Cup countries in the group stage made the tournament more inclusive and exciting?
So the first thing is, by having 48 teams rather than 32, it means that there is more representation from Asia and Africa.
Okay.
And some of the teams from Asia and Africa have some have been revelations, some have been quietly competent like we expected.
Right.
You know, I would say Japan and Morocco and South Korea all fit in the quietly competent. You know, those are teams that have a pedigree at the World Cup. You know, Morocco was a semifinalist 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. There are also smaller teams that are in the World Cup for the first time that have been exceeding performances. Cape Verde, the Blue Sharks, you know, you just gotta love saying that, have, you know, played 2 matches, first against Spain, one of the favorites for the tournament, and they had a very credible 0-0 draw, where, as you expected, Spain had large portions of the play, but Cape Verde wasn't desperate. It was good, solid defending, but it wasn't desperate defending. And then they had a 2-2 draw with Uruguay, in which case, you know, they, in the give and take of the match, they were just as good as Uruguay, who is a 2-time winner. But they, you know, they've certainly shown that they've been worthy additions to the tournament.
So now that the group stage is wrapping up, what highlights or surprises have occurred to you as it's heading into the 32-team knockout? You talked a little about it the last question.
Well, I think, you know, you're starting to see the teams that are expected to perform well. France, you know, struggled in the first half of their first match, but in the second half of that first match, with a positional tweak, won their first match. They won their second match yesterday, playing in the same shape. You know, when you have players like Kylian Mbappe and Ousmane Dembélé, who's the current Golden Boot winner, you know, you're going to have great results. Other teams, you know, Spain drew 0-0 with Cape Verde in the first match, but as their star players are returning to form, you know, they won their next match comfortably, and they probably should win the group comfortably. England played very well in their first match, struggled yesterday, but are still in a good place to win the match.
Besides, of course, the USA squad, what teams are most popular in Chicago as far as when they start descending on A.J. Hudson's public house, and why?
England does very well here because we are a long-time home of the Premier League. We have English owners, we have English employees, we have English supporters of club sides, and then we also have a large number of England supporters coming in for the match. So that draws very well. We draw very well. Mexican fans enjoy coming here. I think they say because they like being in a bar that's not just Mexican fans.
Right,
so they like they like the interplay between that.
Yeah.
We have.
Well, what was the biggest split rivalry, for example?
Well, so far, probably the biggest split rivalry was the first round match between the Netherlands and Sweden.
Okay, sure.
You know, Chicago has a long Swedish heritage, and there are a number of Netherlands supporters, both immigrants, descendants of immigrants.
Sure.
So that was probably the best match so far. There will be some very good matches in the last of the group stages.
Great. So one of the popular commercials during World Cup coverage is the "To Dream the Impossible Dream" ad for Team USA. Mm-hmm. What in reality can the USA expect in the knockout stage? And is there a possibility for that impossible dream?
Well, I think that the expectations, I would have to think that the World Cup would be a failure for the United States if they did not qualify for the round of 16. Win the group, win their first round of 32 match.
Right.
Depending on who they play in the round of 16, that's where things get a little problematic. I think that there are permutations of the bracket where the U.S. would play England on July 4th in Philadelphia.
Oh, my God.
That might be a big ask.
Yes. I got
But on the other hand, the USA has been playing better than expectations.
Mm-hmm.
I would say England's been playing at or perhaps below expectations. Their ceiling is much higher than the U.S.'s. So.
Okay, so one of the elements about the World Cup that has emerged is the notion that football/soccer is the beautiful game. As you've learned to become an admirer and expert on the World Cup, what do you find most beautiful about it?
Well, the great thing about the World Cup, this World Cup, is you get a variety of supporters from a variety of nations coming to the States and showing their individuality. The Scots in Boston and in Miami, where they are now for their match today. The Norwegians showing more of a sense of humor than you expect from Scandinavians. There's stories about Algeria, who is based in Kansas City, about having a great impact, with people in Kansas City becoming, Algerians for the group stage period. So I think there's just a chance for people to see, Americans to see, how much the World Cup matters to the rest of the world. And sort of the same lessons that were learned 32 years ago, but that's 32 years ago is a long time in sports history, and it's a very different world than it was pre-internet, or in the fledgling days of the internet.
Very good. What do you advise people to watch when they're watching a World Cup match if they complain to you that the game is too boring?
Well, I think when people that associate a 0-0 match as a boring match, sometimes they're right. Sometimes a team is playing, defensive, the technical term, you play a low block, you get everybody behind the ball. The perhaps more descriptive term is you park the bus in front of the goal and make it hard for the other team to do that. That can be an interesting contrast of styles. The thing to do would be to watch a match and see how the team that has all the ball uses it well or doesn't use it well and breaks that down. Obviously, there are teams that play with great flair and attack, and their theory is that we will score more goals than we give up. Those are always fun to watch. So there's a contrast in styles. It's interesting to see how teams deal with playing in the hot weather. Some teams that have high energy, high work rate styles have to adjust that to play in the heat and humidity. Even though a lot of games are being played in climate-controlled indoor stadiums, there's still lots that are being played in heat and humidity.
Sure. Finally, what makes A.J. Hudson Public House the best place in Chicago to take in a World Cup matchup, and why?
we've been doing this for a long time. We understand what needs to be done to make it work. And people seem to appreciate it. We built on, we continue to build on previous success. And we're here for every match with sound. Nothing changes because something else is going on.
This is Patrick McDonald for HollywoodChicago.com. Copyright 2026.